That song, Nate?
It's called It's Too Early and I don't know what I'm doing. Hello and welcome to All About the Bass.
Hello!
I'm Nathan.
And I'm Lee, but not that Lee.
Lee, I was going to say you look terrible. Oh no, it's you.
I've put about 3 stone on and aged about 20 years. Yes, poor old Lee, the other Lee, is not very well today, so I've stepped into the breach.
Well, lovely to see you again, old boy.
Lovely to see you too.
Yeah, the old team back together.
Yeah, so the A team.
Yes,
the B
I don't
team.
know. I'm not sure what A stands for.
No. Well, we're here today to talk about G&L.
G&L.
G&L, George and Leo.
My word. Well, now I've been doing the show for about 130 years. I've actually learnt a little bit. Oh, is that it? George and Leo?
George and Leo.
Ah, Leo being Leo Fender, right?
Yes, and George being George Fullerton.
Ah.
His wingman.
Ha 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 ha.
So look, we're going to review today the L1000, the L2000, and these are the USA models, came out in 2018. Also were reissued in 2018, because of course these are all basses from the 80s. And the tribute version of the L2000, which is the Far Eastern affordable one.
The affordable, yes, I like that. I like the choice of words.
Yes.
Reasonably priced.
So Nathan's going to take you through some of the settings, but I'll just give you a little bit of the history. I'm just going to turn this off. The fan has kicked in. I don't like it. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of the history. So everyone will know that Leo Fender started the Fender Guitar Company. Less people will know that right from pretty much day one in 1948, George Fullerton was by his side tinkering and helping design stuff.
But now, were they the inventors of the electric bass?
Yes. Well, there's a lot of different opinions about who actually invented the electric guitar and invented the electric bass. But you know, at the time, I think it's fair to say that Leo probably thought he invented it because he wouldn't have known about what was going on with other stuff. So you had, you know,
or maybe nicked the idea, but obviously made the first. What?
Yeah, I don't think he did. Maybe not on the bass side of things. I think. Although the electric guitar side of things is definitely sort of ambiguous as to whether or not the Telecaster was the first one, I think the P bass is generally accepted that was the first electric bass. Okay. And then you had the jazz bass.
Certainly he popularised it and mass-produced it and all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
In fact, I did read that you guitar players out there that like the Stratocaster body have the P bass to thank for the double cut, because what Leo wanted he wanted the strap button further this way to get the balance of the bass right. Right. And the double cut was designed predominantly to get the strap button further forward. Anyway, 1965, Leo sells the Fender Guitar Company to CBS. Okay. Again, go and read why. All to do with Leo.
How much did he get?
$13 million.
Oh, that must have been a lot in those days.
It's roughly equivalent to about $200 million nowadays. So he did okay.
It's not that, yeah.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Wouldn't get out of bed for less than 250 million.
Yeah, but you know, when you see these tech companies these days, they're going for like £10 billion for somebody's invented a pair of glasses that you can play games on.
Anyway, so
I digress.
That was at the time down to Leo's failing health and some uncertainty about how many years he had left on the planet, and he flogged the company and and then got better, right? Which is good. Then after his non-compete clause with Fender, he started a business called CLF Research, Clarence Leo Fender Research. And for a fairly short period of time, about 4 or 5 years, he was a subcontractor really for Music Man. So Music Man, who were an amp company, contracted CLF Research to design and manufacture guitars and basses. Right.
I remember Music Man amps from the 70s. They were unbelievably heavy. I don't know what they put in them.
Yeah, concrete probably. Oh. So the two, I guess the legacy of that period, the most that really was the Stingray guitar and the Stingray bass. That was a fairly short-lived affair. So by the end of the 70s,
did he design that? Mm-hmm. He did. He designed the Stingray bass.
Yeah, Stingray guitar and the Stingray bass are absolutely CLF research or Leo Fender designs.
Right.
Fell out with Music Man for whatever reason. Music Man then subsequently went bust and was sold to Ernie Ball. And Leo was left with after the falling out with Music Man, Leo was left with a guitar manufacturing facility with nobody to buy the guitars.
Right.
And so he and George Fullerton, who again, George Fullerton had worked with Leo at CLF Research, started G&L Guitars.
Right. So came up with a third design.
Well, a third company. And very much in the early days of G&L and the whole CLF thing, didn't want to just rip off Fender. It was quite an interesting time. The sales guy that they employed was ex-Fender, and all he wanted George and Leo to do was rip off old Fender guitars so that he could go to all his dealers and say, don't buy the Fender one, buy this one. But Leo and George really wanted to continue this evolution. From what I've read,
good for them.
Leo found it hilarious that all Fender could ever seem to do was basically come up with reissues of the guitars that he'd built in the 50s.
Yeah, but like now.
Yeah, exactly like now, to be honest. Although in fairness, I think that's demand driven. You know, that is what people want.
Yes.
Anyway, so early G&L stuff was very much about continuing that evolution. So there's really nothing early G&L that looks very Fendery. It's all got its own vibe. If anything, it's more Music Man-y.
Well, to be honest with you, it is very tricky, isn't it, when you come up with new designs? Because you're kind of, you're trying to pioneer and innovate. And then people go, yeah, but it doesn't look like what I know.
But by the end of the 80s, and really as Leo's health was failing.
Again,
I mean, he was... I was
going to say, he must have been knocking on by this point.
He was either into his late 80s or early 90s or whatever. Anyway, by the end of it all, I think they bowed to kind of peer pressure, really, and a lot of the later G&L stuff began to take on the form of, Telecasters and Stratocasters and P-basses and stuff like that. But the early stuff and the sort of the innovative stuff was quite unique. So anyway, the L1000 and the 2000 bass that you've got here really were an evolution of the Stingray. If you could, in fact, well, let's do the evolution. So that's what it looked like in the early 50s and still does to this day. That's a P bass, an American P bass. You can see the Stingray is quite radically different to a P bass, but that's what a Stingray kind of looked like. A bigger body, humbucking pickup, the sort of oval shaped, egg shaped kind of scratch plate.
Yeah, very different sound, obviously, with that great big fat
100%. Yeah,
pickup.
Let's just pop that back, and then I guess the L1000 kind of, I think, perhaps has a nod back towards the body shape of a P bass, but with the pickups, building on this humbucker design. This is the MFD pickup design. Building again on this idea of the high mass bridges, and we'll get into some of the features of that, but you can kind of see that evolution of the bass. The difference between the 2000 and the 1000 is 2000 is a two pickup active bass, the 1000 is a single pickup passive bass, and then in each of these guitars from the American series, there's a solid color guitar which uses a basswood body, and there's a translucent colour guitar which uses an ash body, and there's a small price difference. There's a small upcharge if you want to go for the ash body. Okay. But we've got one of each. We've got an ash-bodied L1000 and then we've got a basswood-bodied L2000.
And what are those colours anyway?
Oh, do you know what? They will probably magically appear on the screen now. I cannot remember. But from
do you like these questions?
Natural sunbursts on the translucent finishes and black and metallic red, and there's a cool looking gold colour, I think, from memory.
Right. I love these questions. I'll fire them at Lee all the time. It's fine. And it really freaks him out.
No, it's fine. So, would you want to start with the 2000 or do you want to start with the...
No, let's start with this, man. Well, you're the boss. What do you want?
They're really not, as far as I remember, I don't think there's a timeline thing here. I don't think this one preceded this one or anything. They just came out together as far as I remember.
Right. Do you want to have a listen to this one?
Sure, let's start with that one. That's the simpler one, isn't it? These are all American made in Fullerton. One of my favourite bits of fun information is that George Fullerton it was utterly coincidentally named. The town, the sort of district of Fullerton, and the fact it's George Fullerton are unrelated. And the first line of G&L's address is Fender Avenue, because the plot of land that Leo bought after he got his payday from Fender, he bought a plot of land in Fullerton, built a fairly big facility, lots of different buildings on there, that he ultimately ended up occupying a lot of those to do the G&L thing. And so the local council, or whatever it called the road Fender Avenue after Leo Fender.
Amazing. And all in the state of Music Manor. Can you believe that?
Music Manor. Wouldn't that be great? G&L guitars, 9052 Fender Avenue, Music Manor, Gibson Land.
US. Gibson Land.
Anyway, so look, so MFD pickup is, MFD stands for Magnetic Field Design.
Right.
It was a much, much fatter sounding pickup. It's available across the whole G&L range in humbuckers and single coils and all different kinds of variants. But fundamentally, what you can do on a as well as sounding different and fatter to a traditional pickup, each individual pole piece is now adjustable. So if you really, really feel the need to massively tinker with the string response of each string on your bass or your guitar, you can get a little Allen key and raise or lower the height of the pole piece, which will increase or reduce the sort of the volume and responsiveness.
Wow.
You have a volume, treble and bass control on there, and the red switch switches that humbucker from parallel to series to single coil mode. So we've got three basic and not dissimilar sounding. The other big invention was what he called the saddle lock bridge. So not only did he realise whilst he was tinkering that the bigger and fatter you made the bridges on a bass guitar, the more it sort of added to the overall oomphiness.
Right.
He also worked out that if you stopped the saddles vibrating, it would increase the sustain of the guitar. And so there is a little Allen key on the top side, sorry, the bottom side of there, which if you, all that Allen key's doing is basically forcing the saddles together to stop them vibrating.
That's good. All right, that makes sense.
It's classic Leo Fender mechanical solutions.
Yeah.
You know, I think this is a guy who at the time, you know, there were no digital solutions to anything audio. There were only mechanical really solutions, you know.
Sure.
And he's great. You know, he's a super pioneer.
He's a man.
Anyway, let's hear it.
So we've got volume, treble and bass,
just a passive circuit.
And this one is what? What are these?
Well, it's I think technically what's happening is you've got a series, parallel and coil split kind of mode.
Which is different ways of combining these two rows.
Yeah.
Okay.
G&L refer to one of the modes as an OMG mode. I think that's probably not a Leo Fender
No.
thing. That's probably a more modern G&L marketing department.
Oh my goodness.
The oh my goodness mode. But yeah, I mean, let's have a listen and see what it sounds like.
All right. Well, look, you fiddle about with it.
All right.
While I'm playing, and then they can tell the difference.
I'll lean
Come on, do something.
Right, okay.
God damn it.
God damn it. I'm not entirely sure any of them made me go, oh my God.
No, I didn't hear you say that.
But definitely if there is an oh my God mode, it's the downward one is a little bit fatter than the other two.
That's obviously full quarter
everything.
pounder with cheese.
Perhaps it would help to just literally reference what
that sounds
a
right.
split coil on a P-bass sounds like, just as a, you know, without touching any of the settings on the amp, just kind of go, maybe we will go, oh my God, when we do this. So, well, there we are. That's fairly oh my God, isn't it?
That is very, very, very different.
Substantially pokier.
There you go, straight back into this one.
Yeah.
The difference. So they're both passive basses. This one's so much louder, so much more output.
Well, you'd kind of expect that with a humbucker. Maybe we should also take the
but that's
Stingray
significant. And also just a lovely, great big sound on it, like a big tone. You know?
I mean, we've noticed that on the videos that we've done with the guitars, which is where you're playing a guitar with the MFD pickups in it, and you're kind of going, yeah, this sounds pretty good like that. Right. And then you do go back to a traditional single coil, and you go, wow, there's a massive difference.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of me that goes, if I had that bass and I plugged in, I would just gain everything up a bit, and I would kind of get it back. But
thing is, though, it's a totally different
beast.
It's a totally different sound. It's a totally different sound. Obviously, you want a P bass. There you go, get a P bass. Yeah. But you know, this gives you something else.
Yeah.
And I like it.
Yeah.
And I like the sort of fatness and the brightness that this has over the P bass. You know.
Well, in terms of build quality and stuff, it's very much American built, very small production, all hand built. You've got lacquered neck, which gives it, and that won't be everyone's cup of tea. That's certainly something that on the modern Stingrays they've kind of moved away from, but it gives it a sort of more vintagey kind of feel.
Yeah.
It's a narrow neck. It's a P-bass style.
I was just going to say it plays very nicely, and I kind of like the smaller body than you get on, say, the Music Man, for instance. This is nice, very comfortable to play.
Yeah, nice and lightweight. I think it's hitting that kind of. You mentioned right at the beginning how unbelievably difficult it was to come up with a shape that sort of doesn't look offensive.
Yeah.
You know, and I think again, G&L have kind of they sit in that kind of, you know, there's nothing really offensive about the shape or the headstock on these guitars. What else was I going to say? We had the ash body. It is a lighter weight guitar than the P-bass or the Stingray. It's probably the lightest of the three. These are roughly-ish. The solid colour versions of this start from about the same price that an American Professional Series P-bass would cost you.
Which is
about 15-ish, 1500, 1600
quid, right?
With a case.
You get a case with it?
Yeah. And then
is it nice?
Yeah. And then the Stingrays, the current 2018 Stingrays, start from about 2100, so they are £400 or £500 less.
Okay, big difference there then.
Anyway, should we move on to the 2000, which is the active dual pickup one?
This baby.
So we've got the same body shape, same neck shape.
Yeah.
I did notice as well. You've seen the 6-bolt for when 4's not enough. 5 is nearly there.
Well, in the 70s, Fender did 3. I mean, there must have been austerity, post-war austerity.
Even on basses. I don't think they ever did on basses. I think it was always 4 on a bass. But anyway. So, now we have 2 of those pickups with an active circuit which we can switch on or off. And we equally have those kind of different modes of... No, sorry, we don't, do we? We have We've just got 2 modes for whether we want the pickups to be in series or parallel.
Yeah.
And we have a 3-mode active circuit switch, which goes from passive to active with a treble boost. Anyway, let's have a little listen to that. Stay on that. You on the front pickup or the middle section?
Middle.
Okay,
middle.
So let's go on the front pickup and let's just try the different positions of the white switch and the red switch.
Okay.
I do think the whole bit of that first demo you were in passive mode.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But so now we're in the 2 different versions of the active mode. We might even want to just turn down a bit. Well, I don't know.
No, it's fine.
Right,
Leave it.
So we're in active mode now.
I feel much more active. There's
loads
nice.
in there. There's absolutely loads.
There is shed loads. I mean, it's wow. That's loads of tones.
Yeah,
and nice ones.
I didn't even touch the treble and the bass controller. We just did it all from the switching. Best not to. Yeah. So that's a that's an L2000. That is that's basically £100 more than the L1000, I think, or £200. It's £100 or £200 dearer, and it's the same kind of vibe. You pay one price for a basswood, solid colour, and a little dearer price.
Hey,
sorry, and a slightly dearer price for the ash body translucent finishes.
Well, I guess so. Maybe if you're a P-bass player and you're happy with that, you want something like that. It's nice and simple. If you're a bit more adventurous, and sort of bi-curious with your two pickups, then you want to get this one because that's got because that's got really loads of tonal options.
I think when I very first saw these, I was unsure about whether or not the smaller toggle switches were going to be as robust and as perhaps easy to switch in and out as the bulkier style or the blade style switches that you sometimes see on other basses. But actually, as I've kind of fiddled with it, I've kind of come to sort of go, I mean, that is what they were in 81 or something when these came out. That's what they had. They G&L have retooled to do all the knobs and switches and everything as they were when this bass was first released.
Oh, okay,
but actually, the more I kind of do it, one of the nice things I quite like about those toggle switches is they are actually harder to knock by mistake. You know, so there's a sort of I guess there's a plus side and a downside to them. Anyway, the last bass that we're going to look at in this little mini review is, if you haven't got, you know, the sort of the upper end of sort of £1,500 to £2,000 to be shopping with these, but you have got sort of £600 to go shopping for a bass, and you fancy a bit of G&L goodness, they do a tribute series. Now, tribute is
looks similar.
Yeah, tribute is a bit like Squire is to Fender or Epiphone is to Gibson or whatever like that. It's the stuff that they make in Indonesia. Amazingly, on the tribute series, they actually ship the American pickups out to Indonesia and put them in. So they are the same. They are the same pickups. I'm not entirely sure if it's the same bridge and the same preamp. I've only read that the pickups are the same. The bridge looks the same, but it may well be just made in the Far East. I'm not. Again, I couldn't tell you for sure.
It's got an Allen key.
Yeah. I mean, it's a copy, if not identical, to the bridge that's on the.
Right, but these are the real deal. The
pickups.
The
real deal.
I mean, that's the important bit after all. So.
You've got a satin finish neck now.
Yeah.
But
it's a little bit chunkier.
It's a little bit chunkier, does it?
Yeah, but still nice, still fine. I still want to play that.
And then I believe the switches should all be the same. So it should be a 3-way, a 2-way, and a 3-way.
Okay.
What is that? That's the most incredible weekend you've ever had. Anyway, so let's have a little listen. So this is active also, and this is cool. So here we go. Let's have a little listen.
Right, are you going to help?
I'll help, always.
You're right. You look at your face. sounds pretty good.
Yeah,
I like that.
The only switch that appeared to be radically different to the American one was this middle one, where I'm absolutely convinced that on this it sounded like it was splitting the coils.
Right.
Whereas on this one it sounded like it was just changing the way the pickup worked between sort of parallel and series.
Well, let's not split coils.
Let's not split coils. So anyway. So there you are. That is our little...
That's very nice. What was that, £600-ish?
Yeah. Again, different colours and stuff. So did I mention before? I think I did. There is no tribute version of a 1000 series at this time. We've got no inside information as to whether that might change or anything like that. But right now, there's only a tribute version of the 2000. But I think it sounded great. It was really interesting to do
that is when you really notice when we got the P-Bass out and plugged that, and it was like, ooh. Yeah. So,
well,
nothing there. You know.
Our next video will be kind of that evolution of the Fender design bass. So we'll do P-Bass, Jazz Bass, over to Stingray, over to GNL in more of a just like, let's just see how they each sound different, and perhaps see if we can pick out what we like about certain characteristics versus
like a part two.
Like a part two.
It's almost like a series.
I kind of think that
an educational series.
First and foremost, it was important to introduce the GNL bass thing, yes. And now I think that the really important one is like, okay, so I'm going to go and buy a bass, and I like the bolt-on style. What are the three classic basses to look at? And undoubtedly it's going to be a Fender bass, it's going to be a Music Man bass, it's going to be a GNL bass. I mean, they are. Is there anybody?
I see all the comments now. Frickenbackers.
Well. Is there anybody other than Leo Fender that you can think of that had such an influence on the bass?
No, absolutely not. No,
I mean, I think
if he's designed these three basses,
because I think when you look at the electric guitar,
yeah,
I can think of several pioneers that have had a massive impact. You know, obviously Les Paul, Ted McCarty,
yeah.
Even more recently, you know, Paul Reed Smith and stuff like that. You can think of pioneers like that. But when it comes to the bass guitar, Gibson
never had a handle on it, did they? Because you think of Gibson basses, you know, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, you've got, I think, Spectre. Well, what was I was going to say Phil Spector, but he's someone else, isn't he? But the guy who designed the Spectre bass, which, as far as I'm aware,
I wish that was Phil Spector.
I wish it was Phil. That'd be brilliant, wasn't it? Like that. What did you do in your life? Well, I designed a bass, wrote some hit singles.
Had a wall of sound. Yeah.
Did kill my wife?
Allegedly. No idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think
hello, Phil, if you're watching from prison.
Yeah, the Spectre. Do they let you have the internet in the prison? They probably do. You get everything else in prison, so why shouldn't you?
They got big walls in the prison. Not walls of sound, but...
So you know that kind of slightly concave bass body design? I'm doing it to you. Should do it to you. The Warwicks.
Oh yes, yeah.
I think Spectre.
Yes, they did, because me and Lee
have
spoken about this. Right, Lee knows his
but other than that, I've got to say, I think Leo is just like, he's just there.
He's the man.
He's the man. He's the man.
Anyway, he's the bass man.
I've had enough. Let's go.
Yes,
thanks for coming in, Nathan. Yeah, it's lovely to see you again.
Oh, that's very kind. In fact, well, I'd be here anyway.
Yeah, that's very true.
This has been all about the bass. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'm Nathan.
And I'm Lee.
The other one. We'll see you again soon for part 2. Right, good.
Good, right.